I
And
mean,
so, yeah, that was a fun part to write.
yeah, it was almost, I expect they're going to want a blood sample. I mean,
Yeah.
just, it was hilarious, but at the same point, frustrating. But you did a brilliant job so that the reader can get through it and be entertained, even if you are angry at the same time. And that takes talent. So good for you. Yeah. Hello, I'm Derek Cash with the North Little Rock Public Library System and want to welcome you to meet the author. Our guest today is Talya Tate Boerner. She is a contributor to Arkansas Farm Bureau's Front Porch magazine, and her award-winning short stories and essays have been published in Arkansas Review and Ponder Review. Ms. Boerner is here today through Zoom to discuss her third novel, Bernice Runs Away. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Talya. I absolutely adored reading this book. It was just, I'll let you speak eventually, but I just got to tell the audience, I absolutely loved it. It just gripped me. It seduced me into wanting to read the next paragraph, the next sentence. I really didn't want to put it down. And it has to do with a style of writing, because for the audience, it's not a thriller. It's not a a mystery or anything like that. It's a very simple story, but it just gripped me. And I just want to comment on just what a great writer I think you are for this story.
Thank you. Wow, what a compliment. That makes me happy.
Okay, that's good. All right. Well, let's begin, if you're willing. Let's begin. You grew up in Arkansas. How did that affect your reading tastes, and how did you decide to become a writer?
Well, yes, I grew up in Northeast Arkansas, in the Delta, close to the Mississippi River, and I grew up on a cotton farm. And so libraries were very important to me as a child. I'd love to go to the library, and I've always been a big reader. And so I had great librarians growing up, both the school and public libraries. And so I think books were just always part of my life. My parents were big readers. We always had books in our home. And growing up in Arkansas, I think I naturally gravitated to sort of the grit lit and Southern writers. And so I always thought that eventually I would write a book because I was such a big reader. I never like woke up one day and thought, oh, I'm 50 years old now, I'm going to write a book. I thought even when I was a kid that eventually I would write a book. I just didn't know when that would happen. So um, it's just something that has always been sort of at the top of my bucket list to do.
Okay. Well, congratulations on that. Uh, what do you find most challenging and most rewarding about writing? And maybe specifically fiction, because that's what you write.
Well, for me, the most challenging part is finding balance. I love to write. I'm passionate about writing. I've never truly had writer's block, but I just find it hard to balance all the things that I need to do as a writer, as a publisher. I do my own marketing. I try to attend as many book clubs as I am invited to. I have speaking events. So there is a whole lot to balance, and I also have to go to the gym and eat, and I have a family, and then I love to garden, and so gardening is a huge part of my life. And so just balancing all these things that I want to do, because I could easily spend my entire day at home writing, and then these other things kind of fall to the wayside. So for me, just finding that balance. Sure, the actual fiction writing, you get a little, it's just a puzzle, and it takes time, and there's a challenge to that, because I think it's real easy to see all these books that come out every day. I think there's like 1,200 new books that are published daily, and so there's a lot of pressure that I put on myself, and think I should be doing it more quickly. I should have a new book every year, but I have to slow down and tell myself that the magic sort of happens when you allow the time to let the puzzle work out and the story reveal itself. So that's kind of a challenge too, because I want to do it really fast, and it just doesn't work that way.
Well, based on your experience, what advice would you give to anyone, any aspiring writers who would be watching this program?
I think my number one piece of advice is to read, and to read a lot, and to read really good writing. I think there's a lot of mediocre writing that gets published
Uh-huh.
constantly, and it's fine to read that for fun, but I think as a writer it's important to read to learn and to look at how stories are structured and how sentences are put together and the pacing of a story. And so I just think reading is probably the number one thing I do to better my writing. um so that would probably be my first piece of advice. And then also just to get into the habit of writing as often as you can, daily if you can, and to do the work, because it's just not going to happen if you don't sit down and really make writing a priority. Sit down and devote some really good time to it every day.
Mhm. Well, you say that, and it just reminds me of something I heard on a talk show many years ago when a writer, it was on Dick Cavett, and he said something to the effect like, "Don't ever look at a blank page." This was back when we had typewriters. Even if you just have to type your name, don't look at a blank page, because then it will encourage you to write more and more, type more and more. And you seem to have kind of keyed on that, or at least one of those ideas about how you've just got to kind of keep doing it every day and read and just kind of keep those skills going. So
And I think Ernest Hemingway said to stop one day, like at the end of one day when you're ready to stop like in the middle of a thought or the middle of a sentence or a paragraph, so that you have some place to pick up and just keep going. Don't just stop when you're like drained and you don't know where you're going to go the next day. And I think that's a great way to do it.
I would have never thought of something like that, but I think you're probably right, because that way you don't get writer's block, because
Yeah.
the next morning you can come up and where was I and just keep going. So I'm so glad you shared that, because authors will watch this and they just need good advice like that. So thank you so much. Um, with your book, because the public might not know what this is about, very briefly, if you could share with the audience what the book is about, and maybe any themes that you were hoping to get across.
Sure. So Bernice Runs Away is my third book, and it is basically, in a nutshell, a coming of age story for an 81-year-old woman. And in my view, it's never too late, and you can never be too old to start over or to be that person that you wanted to be or to follow your dreams. I didn't start writing until I was in my 50s. And so um, I think of it as a coming of age story, but for an octogenarian.
Hmm.
And then the themes um, are family and love and friendship and second chances, I think. And I always have my books, so far, all of my books have a really strong tie to Arkansas. And so there's a lot of nature and just special things about Arkansas tied into my stories too.
Mm. Oh, you can say that with this book. I mean, it takes place in Northeast Arkansas, and although I didn't really know where you were from, I thought she's probably from that area. And so as you've already said that, so yes, it is a major theme of the book. Yes. Um, your book has got a lot of one-liners, or at least I think they're one-liners, and I think they're hilarious. Now, I'm not going to go through and recite them all, because there is a time and it would take away from the reader's joy. But was it easy for you to put them in the book, or are they something that you incorporate in your three novels that you have written?
Well, I think, first of all of my books are very much character based, character
Okay.
driven. And so I like to start with a character that I think is intriguing, a strong character that is relatable. And the themes in my books may be a little, they have a lot of human interest and they can be serious at times, but I think that humor is important just to
Hmm.
balance. I think what makes Bernice so funny is that she's just so real. And I think as we get older, our filters lessen and we just say what's on our mind. And so
Hmm.
the fact that her one-liners, so to speak, are based in real life and truth, I think that just makes it even all the more funny because we can see ourselves in it.
Exactly. I think that I hadn't thought about that, but I think that's probably why I like the book so much. I could relate to what she was thinking or the one-liners that you want to say, and maybe you don't say because you don't want to be, I don't know, maybe rude or anything, but she said them and I was so, yes, you hit it right on the head. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're just things that if you haven't thought or said, you've probably heard your mother say it or your grandmother, or you will eventually get to that point where you do those things. So I just think there's so much real life in the character,
Mhm.
um, that she's just funny on
Uh,
just a basic
sh-
level.
yeah, she is. Yeah. There, there is something in your book I found intriguing. You bring up a character called Marie Kondo. Now, I didn't take the time to look it up, but you say Bernice reads Marie Kondo's book, and Bernice is to thank, I want to say, inanimate objects for everything they do. And to me, it sounded something like new age sort of thinking. I'm not making that as a judgment or anything, but just that's the only way I can characterize it. And
Right.
where did you get that idea? Because it made me think, pause. And I thought, Derek, you need to be grateful just that this table is right here and holding this camera, and I get to talk with Talya. And to be more grateful. Where did you come up with the idea? I thought it was intriguing.
Well, it's actually Marie Kondo's idea. I
Oh,
mean,
she's a real character. Okay.
it's a real book.
Okay.
Marie Kondo wrote a book, and I think she has several books and TV shows about the magic of tidying up. And so she
Okay.
is like this guru for minimalism. And I just remember reading some of it and thinking some of it has value to me because I'm kind of I like things organized and I can't think or create if there's just a mess going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I thought it would just be a funny way to add some of the themes that are really going on in families. Like you've got an aging parent and you've got a daughter who's saying, we really need to clean out some of these possessions that you've collected your over the course of your whole life. And so I thought it would just be a funny way to insert that by having the daughter gift Bernice this book. And then if as I skim through the book, I see that Marie Kondo actually recommends that people thank their possessions. Like she goes into her house when she comes home at the end of the day and thanks her house for being there. And so, I thought this is hilarious, but we should be more grateful. And so I thought I would just weave that in with Bernice and
Uh-huh.
have it be part of her story of kind of rediscovering herself and her joy.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, thank you for that because I should have really, as a researching the book and reading and everything, I should have taken the time, but I don't know why I thought maybe it was just a made up character. I'm glad you've clarified that. That makes the book even more worthwhile to read. Um, I'm not going to hold it up. I think the cameraman has advised against it, but I want to ask you about the cover of the book. Where did you get that cover? Was it the publisher or you? I think it's a charming cover. It's a beautiful cover for a fiction book.
You can I hold it up?
Yeah, you can. Yes.
So I designed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I designed all of my covers, the backs, the dust jacket. So I wanted the cover to reflect the story that she's going on a journey. And Miss Fiona is the name of her car. Bernice likes to name her inanimate objects. So Miss Fiona is her car, and she's green. And I wanted to have some of the important things to her on the cover, like her ukulele and the things she packs. Her cat is right there, and her name's Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
And then I thought it would be cool to put the shape of Arkansas in the background, and sort of a nod to our state. And I made it red and pink because these are kind of Bernice's favorite colors. When she goes to get a new bullet wardrobe, she buys some red. So it's all me. And on the back, I put the road because she's on her journey with clouds and a little bird. So I have a lot of fun doing this. I like the creative part of it and the artwork that comes with it. So yeah, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. Well, it suits the story so well, and I'm even more want to flatter you even more that you're talented in that respect, because not all authors can do that, and they'll just leave it to the publisher. So I'm glad you took hold of it and did it, because I just think it's just a beautiful cover. And so congratulations to you for that talent.
One thing I did when I wrote this book during COVID. And before it came out, and when I was working on the cover, one of the things I like to do is go to Barnes and Noble and just see what books are on the new releases and just see what the covers look like, because it's just a good way to judge what is popular and what's being published. And at the time when I published Bernice, most of the new releases were really vivid, bright colors. And I thought that's just probably indicative of our lives at the time. We were all kind of stuck at home. And, I thought I'm going to do something with a pop of color. So that was also in my decision making.
Okay. All right. Okay. I want to bring up something in the book that I found very engaging as a reader. And I'm referring to the part where Bernice and Jason are trying to locate John Marvel. And I don't want to give too much away, but Jason just pulls out a phone book. But it was so engaging because I stopped reading and I thought, if I were to try to find someone, what would I do? And I thought, well, I would look in the internet, and just all these things kept going through my mind. And I just thought it demonstrated what a great author you are, that it got me to stop. What would I do to try to find John Marvel? And I recognize that maybe by saying all this, there's not much you can comment on, but it really gripped me. What would I do? How would I find John Marvel? And just congratulations to you for getting a reader to, what would you do?
Thanks. Well, and I think I had to also think about the age difference between Bernice and Jason.
Uh-huh.
And Jason was kind of an old soul, and he was kind of a pack rat, and he had this stack of phone books. And so he was able to go and find his name, where, someone else may not have any phone books, and you'd have to rely on the internet. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was a good way to say something about Jason's personality as well, that he had those phone books.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. I mean, he's not really that old, but he had the phone books. And it's like people today, young people who can't read cursive handwriting because they're not taught it, or what's a letter? And you're thinking it's something the post office delivers because they just don't write them anymore. So it's a nice way I hadn't thought about that, but that's a nice way that you've interpreted it.
Thanks.
Something I found intriguing about my personality was when Bernice was trying to open the bank account. I wanted to scream. It's like all the ID that she had to deal, all the proof that she had to bring up. It's like dealing with those people and with credit cards on the phone. You're dealing with people, and I'm not making fun, but people from the third world who do not speak English is not their first language. And you have, in order to speak with Y, press 1. Now, if you want to do this, press 2, press 3. And then when she was dealing with them, I just wanted to scream with her. And just, you did a great job of that, getting the reader maybe upset, but entertaining them at the same time.
Thank you. So I have a background in banking. I worked in Dallas for 30 years in banking. And so I really had a lot of fun writing the sections where Bernice goes to the bank to withdraw her money, and then she goes to the new bank to open a new account, and just the frustrations that she had. Those were just fun chapters for me to write because I spent most of my career, all of my career in banking. So I just think that's just how it is right now. And you have to prove your humanity over and over, yet your identity is still stolen, right after under you.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so, yeah, that was a fun part to write.
yeah, it was almost, I expect they're going to want a blood sample. I mean, just, it was hilarious, but at the same point, frustrating. But you did a brilliant job so that the reader can get through it and be entertained, even if you are angry at the same time. And that takes talent. So good for you. Yeah. Now, another thing I liked, and this is maybe hard to explain, but Bernice has a conversation with Jason, and if I hope people who are watching this will get this book, but it's on page 224. I'm not going to read it, but it's more or less, to me, it was people are talking and you're having to endure a conversation and the mindless things that get said. And you're not really listening. Bernice is not really listening. She is, but she isn't. And you're thinking, oh, please be quiet. Please go away. And I just thought, it just reminded me of the conversation sometimes I have with some of my coworkers, or sometimes people that you're just, maybe sitting next to in church. You did a good job of that without belaboring the issue. It's hard to explain. I just have to tell the reader, turn to that page in the book, but you did a brilliant job on that.
Thank you. I really enjoy writing dialogue, and I think it's a great way to move the story along. And I try very hard when I write to, like in this book, for instance, just to stay in the head of Bernice.
Mm-hmm.
So I never, pardon my dogs, I never want to jump into Jason's head. I never want to try and, girl, sorry.
That's okay.
Their buddies walking down the street. So anyway, I try to stay in my main character's head, and I try to work really hard with subtext. So that's where dialogue to me is really important, because you can say so much about what the other characters are thinking without getting into their head, just by, their mannerisms and what they're doing and what they're not saying.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, I think in all the time I've done this program, I don't think I've ever really disagreed with an author. You wrote the book, but I was so disappointed with the ending. I mean, I'm not saying it takes away. I just thought Bernice, I won't say what happened. The decision she makes with John, I thought I would have done it a different, I just didn't like it. I thought, but that's just my preference. But, I was frustrated. She was just too intelligent to make a decision like that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to know what you think he should.
Well, I just thought I don't want to steal from the reader, but after what happened earlier in life, I just thought, and sometimes the heart is stronger than the mind. I just didn't want her to go back to him, is maybe the way I would say it. And I know I've kind of stolen it for the reader, but I wanted her to go back and not have anything to do with him, sort of thing. I mean, but you did a brilliant job. A difference in just.
I kind of left that open. So
you did? Okay.
Know for sure what she did.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I read more into it than was there. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad even though it's just a mild difference, I'm glad you're willing to accept someone who got frustrated maybe a little bit. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Talya, why don't we stop at this point, and I will let you read a section from your book, so to whet the audience's appetite, and I'll be quiet and let you read just a brief section.
Okay, let me find it. I've already lost mine. Okay, I'm going to read just a few paragraphs, and this is page 24, where Bernice is actually going to the doctor before she runs away from home, because she needs a refill of her sinus medication. And so it just shows a little bit of her frustration with the doctor. Okay. When she reached the front desk, a young girl in lemonade colored scrubs slid a clipboard toward her. "Sign in here, please, ma'am." She sounded as chirpy as a goldfinch. Bernice wrote her name on what looked like a mailing label. The girl peeled it from the page and affixed it to a form. "Here you go, Mrs." She paused and looked at the form. "Hart. We're going to need you to update your personal information real quick." The girl handed Bernice what looked like an Etch-a-Sketch. Bernice knew it was a sort of fancy iPad. She had used one last month at this same clinic when she'd gotten her flu shot. No, I did this last time when I was here. I just need a refill of my sinus medicine." The girl's brilliant smile lit the area. "Yes, ma'am, we need you to update your information every time in case something has changed. Just follow the prompts and let me know if you have any questions." Bernice stared at the bright whites of the girl's eyes and slowly shook her head. "In case something has changed? Well, I do have a new mailbox because some nincompoop plowed into mine in the middle of the night and knocked it halfway to Kingdom Come. And a one-legged grackle has started drinking from my bird bath. And I've started cleaning out my closets because Sarah, that's my daughter, believes in death cleaning. Those are the only sort of changes I've had since last month." The girl stared at her with fried egg eyes. With age came snark. Bernice seemed to have no control over the words leaving her mouth. "Oh, well, you probably aren't interested in those sort of changes, are you? Forgive my harangue, dear." Bernice took the iPad from the girl's outstretched hand. The girl grinned with one side of her mouth and made a little clucking sound, as though simultaneously choking and swallowing. People were so odd.
You couldn't have picked a better choice. That nasal medicine. Yeah, it was just, you get an idea. Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
This is brilliant, just brilliant. Yes. Talya, we want you to sell as many books as you possibly can. Please tell the audience where they can get copies and any social media that you're on.
Okay. Well, books are available online through the normal sites like Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You can order from my website at talyatateboerner.com, and I can mail you a signed copy that way. And then you can also, my preferred way is that you ask your local indie bookstore to order the book if they don't already have it. It's also at most Arkansas libraries, which is just fantastic in my opinion. So I really don't care how people read my book. I just want people to read it. So go check it out at the library. If it's not at your library, ask your librarian to order it, because that's just great for me to get more readers, which leads to more reviews. And then on social media, I have a blog called Grace Grits and Gardening. It's gracegritsgarden.com, where I talk about gardening and food and writing and just whatever's on my mind. And then I have a Facebook and Instagram page, Grace Grits. So yeah, great. I'd love for you to check me out there.
Well, I hope they do. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on this program.
Thanks, dear.
If you're interested in reading Bernice Runs Away, you can check it out from the library or purchase it wherever books are sold. You can also find more information at Talya's website, talyatateboerner.com, or at our website, nlrlibrary.org. Join us again next time and have a great day, everyone.